All right, people, welcome to the stream. I'm a little bit late here because of various reasons like food and shit. This shit means here gym. Sorry once again. I aimed to start this like 15 minutes ago, so yeah, late to the party. Setting up some beers and whatnot, and now my camera angle is a little bit off. Can't do much about it right now anymore. So there it is, what it is. Anyhow, welcome to the stream, obviously, and we have different topics today, including not limited, obviously, to questions and answers. So we can, of course, talk about. I don't know. I mentioned workout, so that's a topic people have been asking about in the past, like when there will be workout videos. And frankly speaking, I have tried to fit it in my schedule, but so far it has been next to impossible, meaning it's already really, really full. And there's so many different topics I want to talk about. So I figured out I might as well talk about the workout things on the stream as well, because then people can actually ask questions real time. Of course, there are a bunch of other questions I'm going to answer. So whatever you have in your mind, tag Rauta, that I will see your questions highlighted and I will notify. The system will notify me when there's a question. So please tag me when you want to make sure that I'm going to answer your question. And okay, I just got some message, Rauta Facebook. Well, I'm going to get back to that a little bit later. And all that stuff. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much the basics. Of course, we're going to talk about festivals that are coming. And of course, we're going to have beer. So, once again, welcome to the stream. I just picked up a new box of different beers today from Mallassepät, the local brewery. And this is from the older batch I got from last year. This is The Brews. As you can see, this is a kind of like Bruce Lee tribute. For some reason, there's a Batman logo. Maybe that's actually, Bruce Lee meeting Bruce Wayne. Maybe that's the thing here. The Bruce Hub Blend is the name of the game. Napalm meaning, New England India Pale Ale. And here it is. Roundhouse kick of Hope Warward character, diehard commitment, the flavor and the bold and unforgettable taste like it was born in the USA. A tough as nails brew, the Brews is a dark night of the craft beer world, born to run and perfect any kind of a hop lover, a yippee-ki-yay beer lover. So there's also a Bruce Willis mention. So yes, Bruce Wayne, the Batman, Bruce Lee as the Kung Fu guy, the legend, and then Bruce Willis doing yippee-ki-yay for, what can I say, Die Hard movies. So here it is, how it looks like. Pale indeed. And because it's NEPA, it's unfiltered, and such. This is there is like something in my beer. I'm gonna try to remove it, whatever it is. I have no idea what it is. Let's just call it weird dirt. Okay, so bunch of people are getting onto the stream. Let's go. So welcome to the stream. Feel free to make your questions ready and all that stuff. So about workout. Now, I just finished today my second juggernaut workout program in a row. My first one was last fall, took 16 weeks. That's how the program is written, meaning there are 4 different blocks of different, subroutines in a way in the program. Meaning first you do longer sets for 4 weeks, then you do a medium range of sets for another 4 weeks, then shorter amount of reps for another 4 weeks, and then finally the threes in the final block. So each block takes 4 weeks, including 3 harder weeks, then a deload or lightweight week, and so forth. And when you combine 4 times 4 blocks, it obviously is 16 weeks, assuming you don't get ill or there are trips that, just slow down the progress like it was now in this spring. And indeed, this second juggernaut 16 weeks program got a little bit like halted when I was traveling with my cameraman to Acrobatic Arts festival, so I couldn't actually do the 16 weeks in a row this spring, and as such, it took more something more like almost 20 weeks. I mean, here we are on the very first week of May, and I now finished it. And of course, after the first Juggernaut set and before this one, there was a few weeks when I was going for heavier weights. So people have been asking like what kind of program I do, and I've been doing most of my years, I guess, the program called 531 by Jim Wendler, who also happens to be a metalhead. He even wrote an article back in the days asking, "Are you Metallica or are you Dark Throne?" So there's this strong metal reference to lifting as well. And I like the article. I mean, it was basically pointing out, are you to kind of a one who goes to the gym, meaning Metallica here, or are you more dedicated person such as Dark Throne in this case, which takes more effort and it's not maybe so successful, but it will give you or yield you more results and all. So basically, very simple programs in a way. If you just take the main exercise, if you figure out what's it going to be like, and both are strength oriented. 531 is one of actually inspirators for Juggernaut program. I'm not going to go into details because obviously it gets really, really boring if I'm explaining here for 30 minutes how it goes. And of course, you can just read about them. But mainly, I'm the guy who wants the shorter sets and heavier weights, more intensity versus longer sets, including bodybuilding and all that stuff. But even those are included, so it's not like some secret weird voodoo magic art. The point here obviously is to train with a program, so you have your goal in your head where you are heading to. In my case, it's strength, but I still suck at bench press, so there's that. But there are so many ways you can actually work out at a gym. Some people just go call it like going to the gym, and to me it's almost like saying, so what are you listening to? I'm listening to music. Going to the gym doesn't really describe what you're doing, and it's kind of a pointless. So in that sense, listening to music is also very, very vague. It doesn't really tell you what kind of stuff you're looking for, what is your dedication, what is your interest, what is your focus point, and so forth. Or if you want to take it even to a more elaborate, detailed version, this metaphor or whatever, you could say, so what are you playing? I'm playing music. Yeah, but what kind of music you're playing? That is exactly what you're doing at the gym. If you just go to the gym and you're basically lifting weights, you are actually just playing an instrument, making music, but you don't really have a focus. Now, when you go, for example, powerlifting, you could say, I'm writing death metal or doing black metal. And then you have the different styles where you focus in different various ways. But obviously, certain genre is very comparable to certain type of training. Now, training in general obviously is good as much as it is, making music. Playing music is good for you. But of course, if you want to go somewhere, be it bodybuilding, like, building bigger muscle mass, becoming bigger, that's one dedicated path as much as it is like you want to do, say, thrash metal. So you kind of need a certain kind of a program, much like you need to practice certain kind of stuff in order to get better with that. So, for example, if you want to play some heavy, fast, even technical death metal, obviously you need to do that kind of stuff. You need to play those kind of songs, make that kind of riffs and all that stuff. In general, everything you play probably helps you getting better on the long run, anyway. And the same thing is about gym. You can do something out of ordinary or something out of your focus in order to get better and stronger and bigger and all. But when you have a focus, it really helps you, reach your goal, whatever it be. For some people, it's about just getting back to shape. People get overweight or years eating too much this and too much that. And obviously, we don't have the metabolism of a 15-year-old when you're like 40. So it takes extra work. It just doesn't. It's not just enough. Like, I'm gonna eat a little bit less candy. You probably need to do something else, and that's exactly what's going on with the training as well. Working out at a gym. But like I said, I'm not saying that one given style is just above all, because that would be kind of a nonsense. Once again, it really depends what you want to do, what you want to reach, what kind of goals you are going for. And that, in my opinion, matters more than just, doing something. Doing something is better than doing nothing, but doing something with focus is even better than just doing something very unfocused and all that stuff. So I hope that these kind of ideas or explanations kind of give you a little bit of an idea what I'm doing at the gym. So much like with a given band, my aim is to get better with this whatever I'm chasing. And in my case, it's powerlifting, kind of a lifting. But yeah, let's not get too much into details. Obviously, people can ask about it if they're interested. I can pinpoint them some ideas and websites and all that stuff, and I can give ideas what I'm doing. But it's a very, very kind of a simple, basic structure what you need in order to just get stronger and all. Especially if you're new to the whole game. But obviously, there is a difference when you're a newbie and you're just starting up. Everything feels more complicated. You don't even know what all the terms and the words mean, and you might find it difficult to find a starting point. Much like in, once again, playing guitar or whatever. But everybody needs to start it with something. So essentially, it helps when you have a program. When you're really advanced, you can create your own programs. Much like when you're a really advanced guitar player, you don't necessarily have to take maybe guitar lessons anymore. You can figure out different ways, but it doesn't hurt even if you do. Like, for example, recently I had this discussion with my bandmates that I might actually like take singing lessons at some point. Why? Because while I know I can do my black metal vocals just fine, or even better than just fine, and I can do growl vocals, I can do clean vocals, but that doesn't mean I couldn't be a lot better vocalist in general. There's a lot of things I could learn because I never took the singing lessons. I never went for music school or whatever in order to actually learn something. But I guess that's the story with a lot of people, in black metal bands, death metal bands, and so forth, that you don't necessarily take any kind of a singing lessons. You just scream or go for the raspy vocals or whatever, and eventually you get better as long as you have some kind of understanding about rhythms, pacing, and you can make those sounds out of your throat, be it more screamy, screechy, raspy, whatever you want to call it. And I think there's a lot of things that people can actually learn. Like everybody can learn at least to draw the basics. Everybody can learn to sing the basics or write, or once again going to the gym and learn the basic stuff. But then when you have the basics done, it gets more difficult to learn. So once again, diminishing returns comes into play and means that you have to do more in order to get at least something out of it. So while the early things you get to learn, you get the easy gains. Like when you start something for the first time, the first weeks even, you can learn quite a lot in a relatively short amount of time. But when you want to learn even more, well, it gets complicated and it needs extra work and all that stuff. So that's what I'm explaining here. And I know it can sound very, very dull, but then again, I think it needs to go a little bit more into detail than just explaining the basics. But once again, I'm not going to waste the whole time here explaining, my workout routines or, singing lessons or whatever. I'm here to give you just a little bit of pointers, what it can be, and what could be done by you or yours truly or whatever in order to become better, whatever we are doing. Anyway, like I said, if you want to ask me something, make sure you tag my name here and then I will get notification. And now I will already have a couple of questions which I will answer right away. Sadistic Vitamin is asking, how about alcohol and workout? I mean, does random weekend drinking destroy your gains? No, obviously, random drinking here and there don't ruin your gains. Barely affects, especially if you're not competing. It rarely means a thing. Obviously, alcohol can affect quite a bit your performance as an athlete of sorts. But then again, you could say the same thing about playing guitar, piano, singing, whatever. And as you can pretty much guess, a lot of people playing metal music drink a lot. And even if they just drink mildly, obviously they would be better without drinking at all. Can they still perform? Sure. Can they play good gigs with drinking? Yes. The same thing with working out. Now, for example, last weekend, a week ago, I was at my bass players, my good friend's 40th birthday party. On Monday, I was squatting hard. Could I have been better? Maybe, but I was still, reaching my old personal bests with the given squats. So I'm still very much on the top of my game, despite having semi-heavy drinking on Saturday. Point here being, yes, you're not onto your absolute top peak condition when you are having a little bit booze here and there. But unless you make it like a daily or weekly habit, I think you can pretty much just work out normally. So once again, people sometimes I think over exaggerate how much you can drink or can you drink at all in order to be top shape. Once again, if you compete, whether it's lifting, running, swimming, whatever, obviously it's better not to drink alcohol at all because obviously that can slightly alter your performance and most likely it will. But then again, if you're not really competing, who gives a shit? Life is also about, enjoying it. So once again, having a beer or two, or maybe even 10 once every blue moon doesn't mean anything on the long run. I think it more matters if you like say work out 12 months a year and rather than if you work out 1 month and you don't even touch alcohol at all. But what is 1 month? It's a small amount of happiness in that sense. So once again, what happens in the long run matters more than enjoying a little bit of alcohol here and there. Uh, my rain is eternal is asking current favorite Finnish black metal project. I'm not really the kind of a person who has the kind of a current things. So I guess I am still in favor of Satanic War Master on the big scale of Finnish black metal things. Then I do, and again, I do really like a lot, like Sielun Vihollinen, for example. But Satanic War Master, especially the early years, have always been like my number one in terms of Finnish black metal. Uh, Putrid is asking me if I like the band Heimdall's Wacht. I have heard the name, but I don't recall. Like I've actually been listening to it. So I guess the answer is I cannot say I like it if I haven't been even listening to it. So there are a bunch of bands I have obviously reviewed over the years, and some I even managed to forget. But sometimes bands come into my mind, especially if they're really good ones. But like recently, I don't know if you have been following. I have been making these episodes of my own record collection that's behind me, and going letter by letter. Like recently, I went through the letter F. So there was a bunch of albums that I hadn't been even listening for years. So it's nice to revisit some of the albums in my record collection, which I haven't been listening. Now I just finished the letter G lately, and the next video is gonna be about that, where we show my albums from letter G. And there were also lots of albums I haven't been really listening to for years. So it's sometimes I even forget what kind of good stuff I even have in my collection, and as such, it's quite inspiring to go back to those albums which I haven't been really like touching even. So yeah, sometimes I do obviously forget some cool stuff I've been listening to over years, and then it will come back to me when I've been listening to it. So there's that. Infernal Cross is asking, will you play Demon Souls on stream? Not likely. I don't have Demon Souls. I don't think I have any of those games in my collection. Actually, I think I have the PlayStation 5 remake, so maybe eventually. But currently, I'm investing my time on Assassin's Creed Shadows, so that will be the focus, and who knows what will be later on. I do have some plan to go my older PlayStation 5 and other games from my backlog, but when and in which order, I have no idea. One game at a time because I don't really have that much time to play various games. So, focus is to play Assassin's Creed Shadows and continue actually today after the stream. Sadistic Vitamin has another question. Some gaming topic. Do you want wait for GTA 6 or Doom: The Dark Ages? Now, personally, I don't really. I'm not that interested in the new Doom game. When Doom made a comeback, what it was like 2016 or so, with the new game back then, I actually borrowed it from the local library. I played it for like 2 hours and felt like I'm not enjoying this, and then I returned the game. It just wasn't my game anymore. So I didn't even try the sequel. So as such, I have really, really low expectations for Doom: The Dark Ages. Maybe eventually I will give them a chance. Especially, I think those new games are available on Xbox Game Pass. So maybe I will give them a go at some point, but not personally like waiting for them. When it comes to GTA 6, definitely it's my most anticipated game since GTA 5 and Red Dead Redemption 2. Why? Because I've been a GTA series fan since the very first game, before it was even 3D. The first two GTA games, GTA 1 and GTA 2, Grand Theft Auto, that is, were kind of like fun, chaotic simulators of crime and driving and violence, but they were not too shabby. Let's be honest about it. But when Grand Theft Auto 3 came, it was like mind fucking blown. It was like listening to Slayer or Dog Throne for the first time. Really mind blowing experience. And so ever since GTA 3, I've thought of every single game after that like it's 10 out of 10 for me. However, I missed GTA San Andreas back in the days because back then I was playing World of Warcraft like a lot. So pretty much all the single player games didn't really happen. However, I when GTA 4 game came, that was something that I played instantaneously. I don't even know why I managed to skip San Andreas. But the point here is from GTA 3 to GTA Vice City, and then 4 and 5. I've been like really, really enjoying them. And I've been even thinking of replaying GTA 5 on PlayStation eventually and like streaming it because I like the humor. I like the missions, be it driving, shooting, the storytelling, the characters, the gameplay, and in general, the use of music. So GTA have always had this kind of a humor and the sarcasm in a way, the satire level, which I've been really, really enjoying. And the same thing was with Red Dead Redemption, but without the modern day, uh, you know, how to say, criticism. The satire level is obviously not there, but Red Dead Redemption games, both 1 and 2, mind-blowingly good game. So I don't think a GTA 6 will be surpassed by none other than whatever might be happening after that. So obviously GTA 6 is definitely the biggest game release ever since, I don't know, Red Dead Redemption 2. Um, Remember to tag me if you want to make sure that I will answer your questions first. Um, Going back to the backlog with the questions. Um, Mash is asking, do I listen to much traditional heavy metal or is it only reviews, basically? Now, most of my listening time, as you might have figured out already, goes with the review albums. Why? Because if I don't focus on them, the pile will keep growing and I try to make it, smaller. So pretty much the time I spend, at my computer here, working my day job, I pretty much listen to 7 or 8 hours every workday music, and that goes with the review albums. Now, when I'm like driving, going to the gym, whatever, so I have this free time of listening music, then I will actually listen to whatever is in my current project. Like recently, I went through the whole Carpathian Forest discography, of which I will be making a video, Carpathian Forest retrospective. So then I might have the time to go some other style of music than just reviews. For example, I definitely plan to do Wasp or Manowar discography run at some point, but that will have to wait. So yes, I do like traditional heavy metal, and Wasp, for instance, is one of my all-time favorite bands. I mean, I grew up with that stuff, and I still enjoy it. Some 40 years later, I mean, I was something like 10 maybe when I figured out Wasp, maybe younger, and now I'm closing to 50, so almost 40 years. But yeah, yeah, obviously there are lots of good heavy metal bands, but there are a bunch of poor ones, and I've reviewed a lot of mediocre heavy metal ones on the channel as well. But yeah, heavy metal is totally like in the pool of interest for me. It just feels bad that nowadays there are not too many good heavy metal bands popping out. It's almost like a genre that is kind of a dying. I mean, there are new people, but let's be honest about it. There are no new Judas Priest or Iron Maidens or Manowars coming out of thin air. So there's that. Um, Inwell Gross is asking, have I heard of Vida of Sweden? I don't think it rings a bell in my head. Sorry. Infernal Cross, I'm happy to hear that you like the gaming streams, and definitely I decided to bring them back for good. I don't know why exactly I decided to take a break after Spider-Man 2, and there was like a year or whatever I didn't stream at all. It's fun to do those streams because then I get to do more of these streams rather than just these once a month streams with beer and questions and answers. The downside is when I'm focusing in the game, it's harder to answer your questions and all that stuff. It's hard to focus on the questions and comments when you're actually fighting some enemy in the game. But yeah, I like to do them because well, I do love gaming a lot. And then again, I also love this interaction with the followers and me. Meaning, if you have questions and comments, obviously it's fun to talk to you guys. It's nice to answer your questions or comment random comments too. So I am definitely that kind of people person who likes to do this interaction. Um, oh yeah, Sadistic Wine, those are the times the GDAs on the old Pentium games. And yes, Wasp is live. Wasp is fucking great. Camping with Ruffles asking, what did you have for dinner last night? I actually, just before the stream, and that's why I was late, I had some air fried chicken and rice with, a little bit mayo and soy sauce on it to give it a little bit of salty feeling. So, chicken and rice, kind of a workout routine food. And last night, I think I had the same. Yeah, but it was just a different chicken. Still chicken and rice. Um, yeah, I actually agree with you, Mash. There are a handful of new generation heavy metal bands, and it's really a shame. But I mean, I understand it's easier to be the black metal raspy guy than being a good heavy metal vocalist, for instance. And it's not like that style is like trending. My point here is, I think a lot of edgy teens and young guys want to rather make, simplistic black metal these days and hope to become some next big thing rather than making heavy metal, which is way, way harder to get into the shows and all that stuff, even if there's more mainstream appeal to heavy metal. But black metal is kind of a trending, let's be honest about it. And some people are kind of not inspired by, in a way, intoxicated by the sheer idea that, hey, if we do this rebellious black metal, I'm saying quotation marks, um, because I don't think a lot of black metal bands do it for the right reasons, so to say, or be honest about it. I think there are lots of edgy kids doing, black metal because it's just kind of a dangerous or cool or whatever it is. Where, in my opinion, there is nothing wrong doing just old school hard rock and heavy metal. That can be as fucking cool. In my opinion, it would be, in a way, more honest and genuine to just be this metalhead and do the old school metal without, being a fucking try hard black metalhead. Don't get me wrong. I do love black metal, and I think I take it very, very seriously. I mean, I've been in a black metal band since 1996, so for me, it has always been ideology and the lyrics as much as the music. But I think there are lots of bands that do it for the wrong reasons. And obviously, I do love death metal and thrash metal and heavy metal pretty much the same way. A good band is a good band, despite whatever the genre is. But I think there are less honest heavy metal people than there are, honest black metal people in that sense. Or more like there are also more posers or wannabes and tryhards in the black metal scene than in heavy metal community. So there's that. Sadistic Venom is asking, do I like dark synth like Perturbator or Carpenter Brute? I do like some synth wave. Some call it, outrun or cyberpunk style, or whatever it's called. But it really depends. It doesn't really have to be dark when it's about, good synthesizer music. And I have even reviewed some of that stuff. I mean, smaller and more underground names than those big ones, Perturbator and Carpenter Brute, which have been even playing at bigger metal festivals like Tuska in Finland, or like 2 years ago there was, I think it was Perturbator, if I remember correctly, that was playing at Beyond the Gates. So for some reason, that kind of a synth stuff has really been kind of a trending among metal community, and especially the black metal community, much like dungeon synth. But with the synthesizer music, it can be really more uplifting, really. Because it takes me back to the 80s when a lot of the synthesizer music came to be. Hello, Maciek. Welcome to the stream. Oh, Infernal Cross, thanks for the tip about the Dragon Slayer. Hello, Masloth. Welcome to the street as well. And Grisa, welcome. Good evening. I like black metal asking here, have I listened to bands like Vothana and Peste Noir? Very little. And the ones by Peste Noir I have heard are not my thing. I remember when they played at Steelfest and it was so fucking boring, almost borderline annoying band live. The very little I have heard of Vothana hasn't been really, that good to me. I know there's a certain kind of underground respect, admiration even to bands like Bothana and Peste Noir, but I really don't care where this hype is coming from. To me, it seems like they're basically some new generation names for, I don't know, younger generation people. So personally, I'm not really being into Peste Noir and Bothana that much. They might have some cool releases which I haven't heard, but you know how it goes. If you don't hear the right ones, you probably get bored with the band. Hello, Rotten Punks. Welcome to the stream as well. And hello, Tia. Nice to have you here. Infernal Cross is asking, is there black metal or did it die with Burzum? Well, first of all, we could really challenge the whole topic about Burzum, because in my opinion, the biggest flame with Burzum died with Prison. Yes, I said it out loud. The latest Burzum albums have been very poor, and the Burzum new song, the release I heard, it was like, what the fuck, man? It was horrible, really, like a poor man's Burzum copycat or worship project. So while Burzum is obviously a fundamental band to the whole Norwegian black metal or second wave black metal in general, I think there are more important bands for black metal than Burzum. And in my opinion, how ironic it may sound, I think Burzum basically betrayed Burzum itself. So it's almost like the saying, like where revolution eats its own children. I think that's what, in my opinion, happened to Burzum, because Weakerness has changed his views over the years. And I mean, I get it. We all get older and more experienced. And with that, obviously you are allowed to change your opinions and views and all that stuff. But it's sad that also the music went like fucking south. It's like crap compared to what it used to be. So Burzum used to be one of the greatest up into philosophy. But when Dowdy Balders and Healed Shelf started coming, okay, it wasn't black metal anymore. It was just dungeon synth kind of a stuff. And I get it. He was limited to his instruments, with Prison. When he came back and made, Fallen and Bellows, there was like a hope that Burzum would be back and with some good stuff because those albums are actually good. But after that, there was no reason why not to keep the old flame going on and make more relevant black metal, and it wasn't happening. So for me, Burzum basically dropped the whole ball pretty much the same way as what Mayhem did after Wolf Slayer Abyss, or Dark Throne with the current era, past 18 years or so. So a lot of those old names, in my opinion, they have really dropped the ball, and that's why I think Norway lost its black metal crown already, like early 2000s. Basically, I made a video when Rauta was really new channel. This was probably in 2017, 2018 when I made this. How black metal lost it, how Norway lost its black metal crown and basically gave it to Sweden and Finland. And mind you, I come from the era when people were saying black metal, they meant Norwegian black metal. They were just dropping names like Immortal, Enslaved, Burzum, Dark Throne, Mayhem, and of course the bunch of other bands which were maybe not that big but still relevant. I'm talking about the 1349s and the Tudors and stuff like that, or even older names and all that stuff. And don't get me wrong, there are really great amount of great bands coming from Norway, like the old Gorgoroth or Urgehal, one of the most underrated bands from Norway of all times. But for example, when we're talking about those kind of classic names, yeah, in my opinion, Emperor ceased to be a great band after the first album. So in my opinion, Emperor has like one really good album. Mayhem, the same fucking thing. They made the Mysteries Dem Satanas, which is one of the best albums of all times, even outside of black metal. But there's only one really fucking genius album by Mayhem. So Emperor and Mayhem, they have like one really good albums. What about Immortal? Well, Immortal was good for, in my opinion, like two albums, like really good, like Pure Holocaust and Battles in the North. And after that, kind of a downhill. Burzum, like I said, after Philosophem, downhill. Enslaved basically never was that much of a black metal band, except from around, Frost, Eld, Bloodhem, and then they changed style. I mean, I love Enslaved, but it's not because they are black metal anymore. Haven't been for more like 30 years almost. So a lot of these bands started losing it. Gorgoroth, after the three first albums, started wavering. Yeah, there is Destroyer and uh, Twilight of the Idols, and then it started once again going south. So a lot of bands, old Norwegian bands, started losing it, and there was even a saying back in the days, like late 90s or early 2000s. I really cannot pinpoint it anymore. And I remember how people said that Norwegian black metal pretty much ceased to be good around 95 or 97, depends who you ask. But when you think it like that, and considering that Norwegian black metal didn't even exist before 1990. So if you really think about it, it's pretty much 1990, 1991, 92, 93, 94, maybe 95, and then it was more or less gone. So while the flame burned really bright back in the days, 35 years ago, it was only like 5 or 6 years. Basically anything before 1991, there was no Norwegian black metal as a thing. Mayhem surely existed, but I mean, they didn't have an album out. And when it comes to bands like Immortal or Enslaved or Burzum, nothing really much happened before 1991 in terms of albums. So you have like these 5 years. And then you look at, what was going on in Sweden, say, in the 90s. They kept going strong, still with bands like Marduk or Dark Funeral. I mean, Dark Funeral used to be a good band, and I still think on average it's better than, say, Emperor, even though I don't have a single Dark Funeral album in our collection. And then you had bands like Arcanum, Kraft came into be. There was like bands like Mörgruning, Armageddon, and so forth, which kept going on. Like Marduk is still a very fucking relevant band, as opposed to, say, Satyricon, which used to be another good band back in the days. So great. And after Nemesis Divina, yeah, made some good stuff with Rebel Extravaganza and Volcano, but still started wavering. And of course, Finland came a little bit late to the party. I mean, if you ignore that Beheri was, of course, they were very, very early 90s, but didn't do that many black metal albums. So if you want to remove that from the equation, much like the same way, like, Emperor, for that matter, you still had like Horna coming in mid 90s, and you had Sargeist coming late 90s, Satanic Warmaster late 90s, Clandestine Blaze late 90s. You had obviously Behexen late 90s, and of course there were more atmospheric bands which were not that raw, but bands like Andoceans, once again mid 90s, etc., etc. My point here is when Norway started, going down around 95, 96, Sweden and Finland were blooming. So enter 2000s, and pretty much all the good Norwegian black metal bands more or less ceased to exist. So they were like, hey, there's the crown. We are not kings of black metal anymore. But still, when you went to see a local black metal show in the early 2000s, people would be like, yeah, Norwegian black metal, number one, motherfuckers. And they're like, yeah, you have this Mayhem shirt, but Mayhem hasn't been doing good album past 10 years. So it's interesting how people still used to say black metal means Norway. And of course, there were great bands coming from, USA and other parts of the world. Eastern Europe had their own share of good bands. And of course, Poland was always there. So, yeah, I feel it's kind of a funny when people still say that, it's Norwegian church arson metal, that's the thing, where it hasn't really been a thing for so many years. Obviously, some of these bands became great later on. Like Mayhem pretty much, in my opinion, picked up the pace with their latest album, Demon or Daemon. And of course, nowadays there are bands like, say, Hordem Rife, which is fucking great. But these are newer things. These are not related to early 2000s or even late 90s, not to mention 2010s. And later on, like I said, the crown started changing. Of course, there was French black metal also, which it was, causing havoc and chaos among black metal community. And later on, there was the Icelandic black metal, especially after Dead Spell Omega. So in a way, black metal is now way more global thing versus the Nordic or Norwegian thing, how it was back in the days. So things have really, really fucking changed over the years quite a lot. Now, that was a long answer to a simple question. Now, once again, we'll read your comments based where have you tagged me. Maslot is asking, how do I like Gal's word nowadays? And the simple answer is, I really don't. Field Kill is asking, daytime monthly stream. It's not daytime here. I mean, this is my typical time to stream, and it's 2 minutes to 11 in the evening. So these are night streams for me. But obviously it's daytime in USA. But then again, if I would be doing nighttime stream, so it was nighttime in USA, it would have to be very early here in Finland. I wouldn't be drinking beer. But yeah, about black metal dying with Burzum, I don't really agree with that sentiment. Infernal Cross is asking also a great question. Is there room for money in black metal? First of all, there's not really much money in metal, all in all. I mean, if you remove the very few big bands from the game, like Metallica, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, get the out of here of the room. And then you can pretty much say there's not really that much money in the metal in general. I mean, obviously there is some money. I mean, there is even some money, doing this kind of channel for YouTube. But if we're not talking about candy money, that very, very small amount of money where you can't really pay your bills and do it as your day job. No, mostly there is not money in terms of black metal or metal in general. Most bands don't make their living, just playing in a band. They they need real jobs. This includes bands like Satanic Warmaster Horna, for example, or even bigger bands like Enslaved. Satyricon probably can do the stuff for a living. Maybe Vatine, that kind of stuff can do. But most bands, and we're talking about roughly 99% of bands existing, they don't really have money. For example, if you would book a typical underground band, for example, my band, Nightside, for a gig, that would cost you a few €100 plus the tickets. Now, let's assume that a few €100 would here mean something like €600. We have 6 people in the band. Now, if everybody would get their fair share of the money, that would be €100 per person. And you have to understand that this money doesn't even include the possible traveling expenses and all that stuff. So when you remove that from the equation, yeah, you get quite a bit less money for that. So doing shows from money point of view don't make much of a sense. So people don't obviously do them for money. Some bigger bands like Behemoth, Demu, Cradlefield, whatever, they might do it for the money. I've been told that, for example, if you book Emperor, you're gonna cost like 5-figure numbers. I don't know if 5-figure here means 10,000 or 25,000 euros, but the point is, those kind of bands, they cost a lot. They actually can, make some kind of a living out of it, especially when you combine merch sales on top of that. But that also means it's not just 4 guys playing in a band. You need probably their own lights guy and at least some kind of a guy mixing, and there are roadies and all that stuff. So yeah, it's not exactly, like a big business. So the question, is there money in metal? It can really be answered in so many different ways. Um, Eltemy is asking here, can you see or imagine incoming revolution of some kind of indie black metal, some kind black metal genre, something on the scale of early 2000s orthodox trend? Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if there was this some kind of a change or like new subgenre coming. I mean, after all, I didn't see it coming when Deathspell Omega started this whole dissonant black metal thing after their initial albums. I didn't see the whole revolution in a way, which I call third wave of black metal with the Icelandic bands. I didn't see it coming. I most certainly didn't see it coming when band like Batushka started putting these orthodox things on the map with the their black metal, and then there was another Batushka, which is now known as Patriarch, and all those other bands like going, hey, we can actually use church items in our music and make it more like church choir thing. Not to mention, like you said, these orthodox trend, like there was this bands which were suddenly religious satanic bands, and kind of doing the Christian thing, but inverting a lot of things, but still being religious. So yeah, I didn't see any of them coming. Then again, I am not some kind of a trend watch thing. But my point here is, black metal as genre can totally kind of sometimes surprise you, and that goes obviously beyond black metal. There are probably lots of death metal bands which are reinventing the wheel. Think about Blood Incantation. Suddenly the band is trending, even though that kind of a technical or even experimental death metal is not supposed to be any kind of a trend at all. I mean, technical death metal was never exactly a trendy thing. It's fucking complicated to make that music or even listen to that music, let alone play that live. So there's just some kind of a groove going on, like with heavy metal or black and roll kind of a music, like Carpathian Forest and all. So yeah, black metal can totally surprise you by the balls. And thank you so much, black metal follower, for your donation. Please, people, if you want to support here the channel like he just did with the £5, thank you so much for this. This helps Rauta doing interviews. Remember, all donations are more or less used in order to pay the hotels and flights so we can do more interviews. So thank you so much, black metal follower, for your donation. Grisa is asking, have you ever heard about the band Tai Catafalque from Hungary? I have, and it's not my kind of thing. Tai Catafalque, maybe I heard like 2 albums or so, or some songs from 2 different albums. Too artistic for me, so no, not my cup of tea. And now I'm going back the back scroll for a little bit of older questions. But like I said, tagged questions always get the priority. Machik was asking, what kind of a beer am I drinking? As always, these are sponsored beers. So I'm going to show you. This one is the Brews, which is NAPA, New England, New England India Pale Ale. Not too hoppy, 6.0, strong. And yeah, this is unfiltered in New England India Pale Ale. So not too hoppy, but quite fresh and nice kind of stuff. Mallassepät is a local brewery, which I today actually visited for a new bag of beer. So I just got some 24 different beers, which I will be showing you at Steelfest, some of them anyway, where we'll be enjoying those beers. I have good terms with the brewery. They make great stuff. So if you get a chance, try some Mallassepät beers. They have variety of beers from lagers to IPAs to imperial stouts to sour beers and Reich beers, which is smoky beers, and other kind of stuff. Definitely worth trying out. Great brewery. Indie and small, but very good quality. All right, moving on with the questions. I try not to spend too much time of each question because otherwise the backlog is once again getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Salvador Martin Campo is asking, greetings from how to say it? Aguas Calientes, Mexico. Muy bien. Yeah, bienvenido. I like a lot of your videos and that you express your opinions. Do you like some Mexican bands? I do like some, but there are not too many Mexican bands I actually listen to actively. Hibalba, or nowadays Hibalba Itzas, is fucking great Dark Thronian bands, and my favorite bands from Mexico. Do I know if Thais Urban is still active? As far as I can tell, which I mentioned recently in my Finnish Black Metal Original History series, Thais Urban is not seeming to be active. I don't know why, but it hasn't been doing anything for a while. Krisha, thank you for your topic about comment about Ritual Butcher / Arch Code interview. It was really pleasing to do them, and I was happy personally that we played, with Arch Code at the event where this was made, and it seems they are playing the same day at Steelfest as we are with Nightside. So we're gonna share some beers and meet the band once again. That's great stuff. Infernal Cross is saying, what would you say is the most important black metal band? Goes without saying, most important black metal band is Bathory. I think a lot of people were expecting me to say Venom or Dark Throne or some other name, but no, I think Bathory is the most important band for a few reasons. First of all, it was one of the very first ones. Unlike Venom or even Celtic Frost, Bathory really went for these raspy vocal styles. It also defined the kind of a classic first wave, which then again inspired a lot of second wave bands with the songwriting. Think about the riffs and all that stuff. And while inventing the so-called epic Viking metal with the band albums like Hammerheart or Twilight of the Gods, Bathory really also gave a lot of black metal bands ideas. Hey, we can actually include clean vocals. We can go for the epic style. We don't have to just go for the tremolo thing or Dark Thronian whatever scene. So Bathory is, in my opinion, the most defining black metal band. For me, Bathory is pretty much the same thing in black metal than Metallica is for thrash metal, or Iron Maiden for new wave of British heavy metal. Maciek is asking, do I prefer drinking beer from can rather than bottle? I don't care if it's can or bottle. I think it really depends on the beer being, we're talking about lager beer, bottle or can, doesn't matter. But when we're talking about, say, imperial stouts, for instance, obviously I want to drink from the glass if possible. Camping with Rufus was asking, do I think Varg got a visit from the French FBI when Notre Dame caught fire? I don't think so, but I don't know. Thanks, Guy Ignonito. That luchador thing was created by Chris C for this video thumbnail. What else? Yeah, Infernal Cross, I totally agree that Flame Burning Bright with Funeral Mist and Dissection. Yes, definitely. Dissection was a really, really great thing until it wasn't. But Funeral Mist is still a thing, so there's that. About Satyricon, actually, yesterday we had this talk at a bar, local metal bar, among my friends, and how Satyricon is still, playing good shows. My friend was actually, to my surprise, kind of praising how strong Satyricon was recently when they played here, like what it was 2 weeks ago. And in a way, I'm not surprised. I mean, they're very pro with they do, but their music is not, unfortunately, not good anymore. So, like I said, Satyricon is one of those bands that was really great early 90s, and then suddenly it wasn't. By the 2000s, things started to change big time. And yeah, Nemesis Divina is indeed total masterpiece in a way, and in my opinion, way better than, say, Anthems to the Welkin at Dusk, which is, in my opinion, a little bit hit and miss. And yeah, like I mentioned, Diamond is, in my opinion, a good Mayhem album. And in a way, it's going back to the mysteryism Satana style, but it's not that great. Um, and by the way, when we're talking about that new members write some of that stuff, I mean, back in the days, I mean, the Grand Declaration of War was basically written by the new members back in the days then. So, in a way, when Vikernes killed Euronymous, I have said this for a long time, he, in a way, killed three different bands. First of all, he killed Burzum, because Burzum turned from a great black metal band into some kind of a synthesizer music band. Then, of course, when, Euronymous got killed, whole mayhem went south. Shit. And of course, with Thorn's career pretty much ended, or at least delayed big time when Euronymous was killed, because, Snorreruch of Thorns also went to prison. So that's the stuff. Okay, once again, reading your comments where you have tagged. I will read them first and foremost. Sadistic Vanimonimus. There was a Moonlight Sorcerer debut gig here weeks ago in Tampere and in Helsinki. I think you have reviewed them. What is your opinion of the band? I really haven't been listening to Moonlight Sorcerer, so I don't have a strong opinion about it. Elite Army is asking, so following the Blooding Edition thing, will future of metal and its development be connected to other genres? What do I think? I think there will be more overlapping with given metal genres. I mean, doom and black metal and death metal and all that stuff. Everything is going to get more confused with one another. Hybrid genres, for that matter. I mean, we've all seen these kind of new genres being born, like shoegaze. Going into black gaze. What is black gaze? Basically, black metal marrying shoegaze, right? And then again, there is something which I call green metal, which is basically to take the atmospheric black metal and you minus Satan, and then you have the nature topics with atmospheric black metal. So basically, the Burzum copycats in a way. And that's, in my opinion, green metal doesn't really have anything, to do with the original black metal as such. Especially when you have more clean vocals rather than raspy vocals, and you remove the darkness and evil and all that from the equation. It's not really the same genre anymore, and I wouldn't really even call it like post black metal, because there's a lot of kind of classic black metal ideas from the Burzum school of stuff, but it's also different. So in my opinion, it's green metal, and there was this one album which the reviews coming out, which I called Post Green, and the label guy was kind of annoyed when I call it Post Green. And how I describe it is when you have post black and you combine it with this green metal. Obviously, it's post green, and you will understand when you see the review. I think it will make sense to you. I mean, unless you're really stubborn and only stick with the old genre definitions, because once you figure it out, you kind of realize this isn't typical black metal. This is more like post black. You have the clean vocals and lots of ideas which don't sound like traditional black metal anymore. And then you have those 10 minutes tracks which are all like melancholy and shit, but they don't really have the Dark Thronian, Bathory, Immortal Gorgoroth kind of thing going on, not to mention Bathory Craft or whatever. And you're like, okay, this is what Jerry was talking to. So I think these kind of genres will be born or evolve in a way. So there will be new subgenres, obviously. In a way, metalcore used to be the new genre, and then things have moved on. Bands like deathcore and stuff like that, which is like, okay, you have metalcore, then you combine it with death metal, but don't really sound like death metal anymore, nor typical metalcore. And there you have, boom, new genre being born, deathcore. And this is not about what you like. What do I like? I am not a fan of metalcore or deathcore, but I'm just saying these kind of steps of mini evolution take place. And, in a way, new genres are being born. And then I will answer a couple of more questions, and then will need to get a new beer because we're 60 minutes in. Jean-Roland, the topic was, talking about workout stuff and all, but pretty much was covered within the first 15 minutes or so. So now I'm basically doing questions and answers. And now I will take a quick piss, get a new beer. People refill your glasses, take the biological or bio break, like we used to say in online gaming back in the days. So take a piss, get your refills. I will be back in about 2 minutes. All right, folks, here we are. And this time I need to give my friend from Mallassepät Brewery a note. So I'm having these beers open. So the next beer is from Mallassepät once again. This is a candy sour type of beer. Yes, it sounds very fucking weird. What the hell is candy sour? When we were talking about hybrid black metal genres and stuff like that, now this is a kind of a hybrid beer. So licorice, tonka bean, raspberry sour. Let that in for. Try to pronounce it when you have been drinking the whole day. Like, what are you having, Jerry? Licorice, tonka bean, raspberry sour. It's a candy sour with raspberry, licorice, tonka bean, milk sugar, mixed fermentation. Yeah, I'm not going to try to remember all these great things. So here it is explained this 1/3 of a liter beer with about 5% voltage, like we say, or percentage. So it is licorice, tonka bean, raspberry sour is a whimsical dance of flavors in a glass. Inside it we can find the tartness of raspberry, the depth of licorice, and the exotic touch of tonga beans, all elevated by the wisp of vanilla. Then you have the ingredients and also these grading body, quite big, sourness, mid, and sweetness, well, mid-low. So pretty wild. And then you have the classic guy from Mallassepät. Mallassepät means sepät is the plural form of smiths. So mallas means malt. Those are malt smiths. This guy is banging or smithing malt. That's the name of the game here. All right, getting back to reading your comments. And I like Black Metal was asking, do you enjoy some Estonian bands? I only, oops, fuck me. And now, fuck. Let's, these are actually important receipts. And now I'm, getting them soaked because the can wouldn't open. I need some paper to clean the mess here. Not too much, but still. Give me a second. So the moral of the story is don't waste your beer on the table or your desk. All right, anything can happen. Let's put this beer for a while. And as you can see, while the foam is, building, you can see this is pretty orange-like, like kind of a blood orange or blood grapefruit kind of thing. So very, not exactly very red, but kind of orange in terms of color. And I'm gonna try not to miss more. Yeah, things can happen. So to answer the question, Estonian bands, there are some good ones like Lloyd's, and there was like this really good black metal band called Mustmissa, Black Mass, but hasn't been active anymore. There are other bands which I have heard, can't really remember all the names, but there are some Estonian bands, yeah. Phil the Kill is saying like they're not good anymore as a statement of fact. Well, yeah, it's not a matter of a fact, but kind of a statement. And Arbar is asking, is Berg that green metal? That's a good question because, in my opinion, Ulver's Berg that was basically the pioneer of the whole green metal concept. Lots of the clean vocals, the nature themes, and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's fair to say that Berg that is the pioneer album for green metal. Much like we could say Bloodfire, Death, and Hammerhard were the starting point for these epic Viking metal. Maciek was saying like, did you have a chance to listen to Kaivum, Nordvrede, or Unholy Craft? No, my time has been busy with the review albums, and when I'm not reviewing albums, I'm listening to some other projects. So yeah, those non-review projects just will have to wait. And it also means that when I'm on the go at the gym, driving, or whatever, I listen to Spotify. So if the music is not on Spotify, I'm not probably gonna listen to it on the go. So as far as I can tell, I think Kaibum, for example, wasn't on Spotify. So yeah. Hello, Ivanus. Have a great beer. Phil Bill, yeah, cheers. I don't know if there's much of a glass collection, but it is what it is. So, reading back to your comments earlier on. Phil the Kill was mentioning earlier that disappointed when Animal Thrones were part of the stage, but US regulations shut that down. Well, yeah, it's hard to do black metal in extreme ways in so many places. So there is that. What else? Dorian, he was mentioning, I remember when there was war metal craze within black metal like 5 years again, and then it died out. Yeah, but there are a bunch of, war metal bands still coming and going. There are always these new bands popping up, but the war metal, in a way, felt like a kind of a silly thing, because after all, it wasn't so much like a new metal created. It was more like, let's add fast death metal parts, keep it simple, guys, like, the blasphemy stuff. And then you add like black metal vocals, war themes, gas masks, and bullet belts, and suddenly you have war metal. In my opinion, it's kind of like the most made up extreme metal genre, because technically speaking, it is just a glorified version, very way to say Black Death. So there's that. This is, by the way, really good, but really sour beer in a way too. Um, Infernal Cross was asking, would you call the new war metal wave a fly on the wall or a fresh wind of blasphemy across the darkened ways of metal? In a way, I think it is this fly on the wall kind of a thing. Most people don't really give a fuck about it. And to be honest, it's hard to really do something new with war metal when you're kind of doing your homage to, say, blasphemy, sarcophago, old buried, archcode, whatever. So there are only so many ways you can do the same kind of riffs and blasting, and it's hard to stay original and relevant in a way. Um, Reading more comments. Oh yeah, I remember the Mexican band The Chasm. I remember it was quite good. Do I like Mexican beers? To be honest, I don't think I have any good Mexican beers. I mean, everybody has probably had Sol, but I don't know, for example, any Mexican craft beers. So hard to comment on that one. Cenotaph rings a bell, but I really don't remember how good it was. Yeah, but Hammerheart is really great album, in my opinion. It's my favorite black metal, well, Bathory album. I mean, not black metal album. And Nordland 1 and 2, especially first one, is are really good. Um, Gyrolamp, in a way, Shadow Throne, and even the first Satyricon albums can sound corny nowadays, but have to understand those were made like 30 plus years ago, and the guys were, uh, young back in the days. Meaning that obviously things that were fresh back in the days don't really sound fresh anymore. But when it came out, it was really, really good. For a long time, Shadow Throne was my favorite Satyricon album. And Esoteric Warfare, Dorian E. In my opinion, it's not that great of an album. It's a decent album, but not in my collection anyway. Black Metal Follower, I will be in Helsinki on Tuesday before Steelfest, but that's a work related trip, so I probably don't have the time to meet anyone. So I'm going to back to Turku on by Wednesday, and then come back to Hyvinkää Steelfest on Thursday. Gyro Lump, I don't know what kind of stuff Blackbird really does. Never been interested to me, but it kind of has this green metal vibe going on. Yeah, Phil the Gill. I mean, there's nothing wrong with listening to things like shoegaze, not black metal related, but or attached. But when you combine shoegaze and black metal, there is black gaze. Um. So yeah, green metal. I've been using the green metal thing in my reviews for years now, so shouldn't be a surprise to anyone who has been following the channel for more than, say, 2 years. So when Better of Burning was asking what the hell is or what the fuck was green metal, I pretty much explained it. It's when you do that kind of atmospheric black metal, but remove Satan, evil, darkness, and all that stuff, which is like very, very definitive elements to black metal. You remove that from the game and you do atmospheric black metal, but replace the evil ideas and dark ideas and all that stuff and that Christianity with something like singing about bushes and forests and woods and whatever. That's green metal. So, in my opinion, there is nothing really black metal anymore. You know, when you remove all the elements that made black metal, it's like, how can you be black metal when you don't have the ingredients of black metal? Does it really just, can you call it black metal when you have screamy vocals? So if I started doing, say, Nirvana, like, or whatever grunge band, and I replaced raspy vocals, can you call it black metal? Like, fuck you, no. Or can you call it, if I do Iron Maiden copycat band, if I just add raspy vocals, will it be black metal? So no, obviously vocals alone don't really define black metal. And then again, at the same time, you have this huge variety of different kind of stuff, which everybody just lumps up under the umbrella of black metal. If you think about thrash metal, is about this narrow of a genre. Go a little bit out of these boundaries, and people, oh, it's not thrash metal anymore. It's dad rock or death metal or black metal. And suddenly black metal is this big box. Everybody's welcome. Just add raspy vocals and you're good to go. Now, if you remove even the raspy vocals, is it still, black metal? No fucking way, man. So that's why I'm wanting to say that people are kind of stupid. They put all kind of different stuff in it. Yeah, it's black metal. Why they call it black metal when it doesn't sound like black metal? Do they just call it black metal so it would be more cool? Like, I listen to black metal. So what kind of black bands are you listening to? Bathory, Dark Throne, whatever? No, I listen to the bands called Black Braid and Wolves in the Throne Room. But they don't even have these things. Yeah, but they're black metal, man. Like, fuck you. So, in a way, you could call them hipster black metal, but that would be offending hipsters. So, like Gyrolam said, Bersham is green metal too, mostly about nature and all that stuff. But, there's a definition. Like, Black Bersham was way more into the traditional second wave black metal thing. I mean, listen to early Bersham, and you have clear Bathory things going on. So it is different than a lot of nowadays atmospheric bands, which are definitely not even sounding like Bersham anymore, while they might be roughly from the same genre. Is the new Hate Forest as good as Innermost? I haven't heard the new Hate Forest, so can't comment. What do you think the revive of harsh black death metal bands like Bluthammer, Wieder, Blood Chalice? I have only heard Blood Chalice of those, but I, for one, welcome that kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't have a problem with fantasy themes in black metal. I mean, basically all the black metal of second wave, at least, started with, fantasy themes and fantasy names. Gorgoroth, Tolkien. Asaghal, Tolkien. Gorgoroth, Tolkien. Summoning, Tolkien. Burzum, Tolkien. Yeah, think about that. And if we go outside fantasy to space, well, already second Immortal album had a Star Wars riff. So let that sink in for a bit. And indeed, cheers to my table, like Lingua Blasphemantes said. Russ said that I should review something good for once. I've been reviewing good stuff on the channel. There are always good reviews. I mean, good albums in the reviews all the time. Better of Burning said that Hordom Rife interview is great. Thank you. Hopefully a good interview Mare, Ritual Death sometime. I don't think Mare is gonna do interview. I think they wanna keep it like off the radar in a way. Oh, Feel the Kill, thanks for the tip regarding Samuel Adams glass. Samuel Adams is actually one of my first American beers, which I enjoyed. No, and no, I'm not talking about the Budweisers and Coors or Miller Lights or whatever. And yeah, Wolves in the Throne Room is green metal stuff, definitely. Now I'm trying to take the comments with the tag. So Gyro Lamb, Interviewed guy from Wither Wolves in the Drum Room a few years ago, and it was interview the guy not pretentious at all. I personally think that the Wolves in the Throne Room interview was, in my opinion, good, and it was nice to meet the guys. It got my respect, but yeah, some people don't like it, so each their own. Um, Ebenezer Swashbuckle is asking, "Hey Rauta, what kind of bands do you listen to when you lift? I happen to power lift build myself. I only listen to French black metal, then to do music that work out well with lifting. Well, first of all, I usually listen to whatever listening project I am doing. Like today, I was listening to Impiety because I'm supposed to interview them at Steelfest. Before that, I was listening to Deus Mortem because I'm supposed to interview them at Steelfest. Yesterday, I was listening to Arcona because I'm supposed to interview them at Steelfest. So usually, I listen to the stuff I have project going on. Now, if I get to choose, and of course I get to, but if I choose something out of my normal listening patterns or projects for lifting, I would say Manowar is the best lifting music. Second one would be Bolt Thrower, and third one probably Rammstein. Why? They have the aggressive pacing, but not too fast, and they are heavy as fuck, especially Rammstein. So way better than black metal. Black metal isn't really that aggressive when it comes to lifting hard. So yeah. And I agree with SK when he said war metal is more like bore metal. Most war metal bands lack the good death metal riffing and they lack the evil darkness of black metal bands. So for me, a lot of war metal bands are quite boring. Infernal Cross is saying, what would you say is the most interesting new genre in metal? Well, don't know if there's any given new genre I find particularly interesting. So, not for me anyway. I'm not really interested in new genres as such. Jarud Paladini saying greetings from Germany. Hello, hello. Enjoy your interviews a lot. Thank you so much. Danke schön to Germany. And yeah, Gerald, when you made this Cascadian thing, well, Cascadian is more like geographic definition of American black metal. I mean, it's very opposed to bands like Judas Iscariot or Absu or more Bozidad. Yeah, in a way, a lot of those Cascadian black metal bands are exactly that green metal thing. So, yeah. I mean, in case people don't know, the Cascadian thing refers to this mountain range, which I think is something like northwest kind of a thing, around the Seattle area and all that stuff. So basically, the same inspiration as with grunge, Alice in Chains, and all that stuff with the whatever the mountain is. Somebody's probably now mentioned it because I can't remember the name of the fucking mountain. Grisha is, what's your opinion on the newest Satanic Warmaster album? Well, I actually reviewed the album and I think it's good. Judas Iscariot copycat. Whole review is on the channel, so there's that. Arbar is getting thoughts of Wagner, Ödegaard, and Vulcanas. Well, I've reviewed some of the material. It's pretty promising, but so far, no cigar. I mean, it's a little bit hastily done overall. Maciek was saying, like, Jerry, let's make some controversial. Thanatos by Deus Mortem was the best album of 2024. Deal with that. I was actually listening to it today, and it's pretty good of an album, but the best of 2024, not me. Nah. There were a lot better albums for 2024 for me anyway. Yeah, Rus Vladimir, I think Agalo is a good example. It wasn't black metal, but it could really be some kind of a green metal. Brendan, I think Funeral Mist is still going on, even though hasn't been really a new album for a couple of years, but it's not too many years ago when they, released a new album. So there's that. And I agree, Agalok has never been a black metal thing going on. And the new Tate and Blood album, it sounded pretty boring to me. So I really don't get the Tate and Blood hype. Sometimes I think the people who praise war metal are the guys who want their death metal to sound like black metallic. Now, if I want some good death metal, I go find bands like, you know, Morbid Angel, Bolt Thrower, Death, uh, fucking D-Side Man, Nile, Origin, and they sound so much more violent than these war metal bands. But hey, to each their own. Um, in my opinion, so many war metal bands are more like they're like grind bands which don't know when to stop, and they want some kind of a black metal thing going on. And let's be honest about it, just lyrics alone, when these were mentioned, don't also make black metal band black metal. For instance, you could say in a way that certain old heavy metal songs could be black metal just based on the lyrics, or things like Slayer, but they are still a thrash metal or heavy metal. So can't really just use the lyrics card in order to say, hey, this is black metal just because they deal with Satan. I mean, before black metal, there were bands that were dealing with similar topics. No one would call Black Sabbath a black metal band just because they dealt with the occultism and all. Talking about Arcona, it's interesting that their drummer is highly fast and all that stuff, but also sometimes the drums sound like it was made a machine. Something weird with the mix. Yes, Charolam, thank you. It was the Mount Rainier, which I was thinking. And yes, Alice in Chains had the album called Rainier Fog. So that's why I was thinking I should remember the name, but I couldn't. Hello, Tamba Mork. Welcome to the stream with beers and questions and answers and debates. Um, yeah. What else? Um, I wouldn't say modern death metal sucks. In my opinion, a lot of war metal just sounds like a sloppy death metal. Like, hey, because we play war metal, we can be sloppy with the production and riffs. I find it boring, to be honest. I want my death metal sound heavy as fuck and brutal. So I'd rather listen to Cannibal Corpse or Origin for that matter, rather than most war metal bands. I like black metal. Has a good question. I recently rewatched the Azazel interview. What was going through your head during all of that? Probably that I should be drunk as fuck as well. And Gyrolabs, I agree. Alice in Chains is solid band still. And Lucas, you haven't missed a stream. While we are roughly 90 minutes in, there's probably some time to ask more questions. And Phil the Bill, yeah, definitely give Alice in Chains a chance. It's one of the most metallic and also darkest grunge bands of all times. I mean, I still feel that Alice in Chains is in a way quite metallic act. And Lane Staley was a fantastic vocalist, but hey, sometimes drugs win the game. And in my opinion, the Dinosaurs album by Alice in Chains is actually one of their best ones. So there is, in my opinion, life after Lane Staley, much like there is life after Iron Maiden, after, Bruce Dickinson, or, live after Burden in Metallica, or whatever else. So, yeah. But these are matters of taste. So if you don't like it, well, that's too bad. By the way, I haven't still been listening to the latest My Dying Bride album, but I feel like I should do a retrospective run of My Dying Bride 2. Infernal Cross is asking, don't you find the juvenile hammering of war metal refreshing in the scene? No, because I'm a drum porno fanatic. And when it comes to drumming, I'm more fascinated by technical and skilled drumming, which is varied in so many ways. I'm talking about the proscriptors and John Longstreths here. You know, listen to whatever John Longstreth is doing with, be it Angel Corpse or Origin or Proscriptor of Absu doing the drumming, or not to mention a fucking god, a Lombardo of Slayer. So war metal hammering, pop, 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 it doesn't do a thing for me. It's pretty much just like grind, but overextending its stay with the song lengths and all. Dorini, I don't think the Goat Moon guy wants to do the interview. He said already like 5 years ago that he changed his mind and doesn't want to do the interview. I don't know if he will change his mind again. I haven't seen Black Goat for, I don't know, since 2020 or, sorry, 2025, 2021, I think. Maciek, as much as I want to do interviews with Les Legionnaires Noirs, well, how you would make it possible when those Les Legionnaires Noirs bands don't play live? I mean, how you would make it possible? I think you have the answer right there. I wouldn't call Behemoth boring radio metal. I mean, if you actually listen to radio metal, you will actually start figuring out, okay, Behemoth is not that boring at all. At least the new Behemoth album is better than the two previous albums. Um, Hate is touring with Christian and Venom Inc. What do you think about the old Hate stuff, like from the mid 90s? I think Hate has been always pretty solid. The new album included, which is out very, very soon. Um, I think the Hate is not creating anything new as such, but they also never strayed away from their own style. So, yeah. And Russ Vladimir, I still consider Alice in Chains pure grunge. I'm just saying, like, you could say the same. Is Ulver or Burzum pure black metal? If Alice in Chains is not pure black metal, that's the point. You can have it less narrow than just one style of thing. In my opinion, Alice in Chains is pure grunge as much as you can say Old Enslaved is, pure black metal. Which Imbel Nazarene album is your favorite? I think I mentioned it in my video go through in the history series that Nihil is one of my favorite ones, and I still think that maybe Nihil is the best, Imbel Nazarene album. And no, I still haven't heard the new Hate Forest. I mentioned it. I kind of pretty much stopped listening to digital promos anymore because certain labels don't send the physical promos, so it's not like why would I bother listening to the digital promos anymore? I'm just focusing on my review albums and that's it. So I don't really have the interest to listen to albums on YouTube. And yeah, the second Imbel Nazarene album is actually one of their better ones, indeed. Yes, Arrebar, I totally agree. Tara is just fucking crazy album. Fucking one of the best albums of all time. I think Tara is as good of an album as, say, The Mysteries Satanas. The drumming is just insane. Every other black metal drummer, in my opinion, pales in comparison to Proscriptor's drumming. It's just crazy, and I'm super happy that a Proscriptor said yes to my interview request at Steelfest. I don't. Ajorim is asking if I have heard or like Prevalent the Resistance. I don't think I have heard it. I remember seeing the name somewhere, but I haven't heard it. Yeah, SK, it's kind of a weird that everybody still asks about the goat moon thing. It's weird that people still are like, hey, what is going on with that? So I will announce when goat moon interview is done. But yeah, that's pointless to ask that again and again. Would you marry Apollyon if it meant that he will do all the vocals and all the riffs for another two Au Renoir albums? No, I would just marry Jessica Alba instead. Ras Vladimir is asking what makes Alice in Chains pure grunge for you besides them for being Seattle and wearing flannel. Lyrically and especially musically speaking, they're a heavy metal band. Well, like I said, there are lots of black metal bands that don't really sound like black metal, you know? So I'm saying if you go stretching, the genre definition for one genre, black metal here, for instance, I don't see why Alice in Chains wouldn't be, because in my opinion, grunge was more about the scene rather than this and that kind of musical style. Hard to say where it ends and where it begins, really. And in my opinion, there are so many bands that don't sound black metal at all, yet they are being called black metal. So let us allow to include Alice in Chains in the fucking same scene. If you're allowing a lot of black metal bands that don't sound like black metal, I mean, why would you consider Arcturus a black metal band? Why would you consider Ulver a black metal band? But there is like only one album where they sound black metallic. My point here is if you start stretching a given genre, unlike thrash metal, which tends to be very fucking narrow, like I mentioned, uh, I think this is more like a scene kind of a thing. Obviously, there are lots of different heavy metal bands too. So yeah, heavy metal and grunge can totally overlap. You can put Alice in Chains both in grunge and heavy metal for that matter. I don't give a fuck. Same thing as Mötley Crüe. Some songs are more hard rock, some are more heavy metal. Wasp, same thing once again. Some are more hard rock, some are more heavy metal, but that's how genres are. They don't have strict lines like if you go that you are suddenly hard rock band, and if you go that you're heavy metal band. Like a lot of these war metal bands are good examples. They are not exactly black metal, nor they are purely death metal, but they do have ingredients of both genres. So like you, Russ, said, pretty much grunge is more of a scene than a musical genre. We could say the same about a lot of black metal bands, to be honest. And a lot of groove metal bands are actually just like a new wave of thrash metal bands, but somehow groove metal became like its own thing. And what about old melodic death metal? Do bands like In Flames sound like death metal at all, or Dark Tranquility? No, the vocal style is black metal. The production is more like black metal, and the lyrical style is not really related to death metal, but yet you call them death metal. And mind you, back in the days, for example, Dissection was called melodic black death metal band. Suddenly, later, however, Dissection was labeled as black metal band. So these goalposts tend to move depending to which era of people you're talking to. So I wouldn't care so much about genre definitions. They are tools that can be useful, but there is no reason to, really fight like whether this or that actually belongs to that. Yes, Infernal Cross, totally listen to Tara. It's a fucking great um band. I mean album. Ante Tanho is asking where would I rank Darkside as drummer. I really haven't been, you know, thinking of ranking drummers in black metal, but I would say Darkside is among the better ones, but not among like my top favorite ones. Second coming of Phoebe is saying, "Hey Jerry, just dropping to say hi. Hi, General Mosquito. Nice to have you here as well." Jay Killer says like Immu tyrmättiin just 5 sekunnissa. No, Immu was knocked out in 5 seconds, and he's not talking about Immu of Azazel. So District Vanderman is asking who is the best female vocalist? Probably the nowadays Nightwish vocalist, but I don't really know. Yes, Rod Vladimir, I don't think Ulver has nothing much really to say about black metal because most of Ulver's stuff isn't even metal. So maybe grunge is a marketing term, but so was melodic death metal because most melodic death metal bands don't really sound like death metal at all, to me anyway. I mean, if it's different when we're talking about like old Hypocrisy, that's definitely melodic and death metal, or Bolt Throwers later era, definitely very melodic and still death metal. But when people are thinking about melodic death metal, they think about bands like In Flames, Dark Tranquillity, and lots of those bands that came after that. Yeah, Jarrell, I mean, in hindsight, in my opinion, Ulver seemed more like a tourists to black metal, not rather than full blown black metal band. So yeah, maybe not then Madrigal is a black metal band, but I mean, given the whole amount of music what Ulver has been doing, based on one album calling Ulver a black metalist band, is the same as you could say Dark Throne is a death metal band. Yeah, Maciek, in my opinion, Transylvanian Hunger is definitely one of the most hateful black metal albums. So yeah, I would definitely always compare, a lot of black metal bands or albums to bands like, or early Dark Throne or Bathory. Arabare, that's my point. What you said, one or two black metal albums don't make a band black metal, especially since they put out a lot of stuff that has zero to do with it. Much like Dark Throne Point, they made one death metal album before they started doing, black metal. So nobody is still considering Dark Throne a death metal band. Achorin, thanks for your commentary about prevalent resistance. Okay, good to know. Darknet Nocturne Slaughter Cult is, by the way, playing at Beyond the Gates. And yeah, Doro is a great heavy metal vocalist. But if we're talking about, heavy metal vocalists in general, I would still say that probably the Nightwish vocalist is better one. And Phil the Kill, I totally agree. Darkthrone hasn't been doing great albums for almost 20 years now. There were some better ones along the line, but the last three ones are like boring, like very, very mediocre work. Black Metal Follower is asking, what do I think about Stormhide, both the band and the artist? The artist himself, the guy, he's a nice dude, powerlifting dude, by the way. His music is very romantic stuff, in a way, that kind of a poetic green metal stuff. Katy Perry is a very good-looking female singer, by the way. I love the looks. I don't like her songs. She's almost as good-looking as Taylor Swift. Lucas is asking, do like Necrophobic. Necrophobic is a band that is a little bit hit and miss. They do have some good stuff out there. I've reviewed some, and then there's stuff which is just decent. So never been a very good band, but overall on the positive side of things, they have some good stuff over the years, and it's quite old. So it's kind of a weird that they are not that respected or well known. And Necrophobic have been doing good albums even later years. I mean, their latest album, I think, or was it the second newest one, was actually a good one. So yeah, Flori Jansen was mentioned as the Nightwish vocalist. She's good. And in my opinion, Sacramentum always was, in my opinion, kind of like a B-level band compared to Dissection. So no offense, but I would say Sacramentum is more like 7 out of 10 band. Unanimated, then on the other hand, was good, but they also had debut album is not that good. Uh, Ebenezer was talking. Have a chance to talk to Simber of Acherontic Arts. I don't think I met Simber. And Dawn, Slaughter Son is fucking great album. Brian Mons, you are basically late 1 hour 44 minutes, but the stream is still running, so I guess not. I don't remember who Necrophobic, fired, so can't really say. Dorian E. I get if you're comparing Sacramentum to Dissection's Rain Chaos, which is boring album in a way, but Storm of the Lightsbane is 10 out of 10 album for me. Primitive Warfare, I don't have a proper recollection of that one. Rings a bell, but I can't remember. Sorry. Imperium Decadence is a band that I have never been listening to. Then again, I'm not a big DSBM fan either, so. Yeah, Russ, but I don't know. For some reason Sacramentum never, resonated with me. I always felt it was like a B-level band. When I saw them live in Finland, I was like, this is doing nothing for me. And yeah, I know Chaos is an album a lot of people like big time. For me, it's like a 7 out of 10. Like it's I just joke sometimes that Rain Chaos is like In Flames album with pentagrams. Mortician is a funny band because their samples are better than their actual songs. As much as I can remember, Advent Sorrow was like, yeah, quite okay, nothing better than that. Hello, Australia. 7 a.m. in the morning. That's a crazy time. Yeah, Russ, Rain Chaos, 7 out of 10. Hello, Gothic Darkness. Do I like Gothic metal? Greetings from Netherlands. Well, depends what you put in the world of Gothic metal. Um, so it's a little bit because Gothic metal is, in my opinion, more of a scene than a music style. So if we would put, say, early Catatonia in Gothic metal, I would say, yeah, I do like some of that. If you would put Gothic by Paradise Lost in Gothic metal box, even though it's death metal, I would say, yeah, I do like that. But it depends what you put in the Gothic metal genre. Yeah, Phil the Kill, I totally agree with your statement about losing IQ points for listening to Mortician. It's just so stupid. J Killers, we also already talked about war metal like 30 or 20 minutes ago, and I said that war metal is like glorified term of death black metal combination. But most death metal bands and most black metal bands are better than most war metal bands. But yeah, like I said, Mortician is fun because of the samples, but musically it's not that great to be honest. So, Rush, how is your deadlifts and squat? Because you're listening to Mortician. Thank you, Branmon, so much for your donation. You're really supporting the interviews done. Now, I will tell you a story after I get a new beer, the third and the final one for tonight. So, people, take your piss break and then you're refilling the glass break and do not spill it on the desk. Do like Brian Mons, get your refills and donate to the cause. I will be back to tell you a story what donation money meant to Rauta. So be back in 2 minutes. Piss and beer. It's crazy. I went out on the balcony to get another beer, and then I heard some footsteps. I didn't see a fucking thing in the darkness, but just some footsteps, like something or someone is running away, and it feels crazy. But based on that, we live in the countryside on a fucking island. And when I was coming home earlier today, just like 1 hour before the stream started, I saw some deer out in the field eating grass or whatever. So I'm thinking it must have been one of the deers, because that's the only one being that size that you can actually hear the footsteps, not some cat or fox. But it's still crazy what it does to your primal functions in your brain. You hear some footsteps like running in the dark, and you cannot see jack shit. And your initial response from your primitive part of your brain is, there's some enemy, I have to run, or kill it. The kind of a flee or fight response. Or nowadays, it actually said in the self defense department, it's like flee, freeze, or fight. Meaning that, well, fleeing is obvious. When you see some kind of danger, you sense it, there's a situation going on, someone is maybe attacking you, you run away. So that's the flee response. No problemo. And fight is obviously, okay, I'm going to make my stand. Someone is attacking me. I'm going to do self-defense. I'm going to punch. I'm going to kick or stab or whatever. But the freeze is the worst of them all. That happens when your brain is not figuring out whether you should fucking run away or fight the enemy, but rather like, I'm going to scream like a baby. I'm going to, cover my eyes and ears and go just batshit crazy. Basically, what the bunny does when the bunny puts its head into the fucking bush and starts thinking, hey, maybe the enemy doesn't see me because, hey, I cannot see anything in the bush. Maybe I'm safe. So the freeze response, if you get into a dangerous situation, any kind of a fight or whatever, you're being threatened, run away if you can. And if you can, then fight, but don't freeze. Me, what I just did there was basically nothing of them. I wasn't fighting, but I was basically ready. I got my beer. I can fight you, fucking deer. But I wasn't really fleeing back in, nor I was freezing. I was just like figuring out what the fuck is going in the bushes. And then I was listening. It was going away from me. So there was no reason for flee or freeze response more than fight. But yeah, usually it's one of the three F's: fight, flight. No, sorry, flee, freeze, or fight. All right. So, Brian Mons donated 20 Canadian dollars. Thank you so much, Brian. You are donating to the cause. So, thank you so much for your support. And now I'm putting a message to my friend. Uh, mm, So here we have a new beer and the final one of our evening. This is Tropical Three-Way from Mallassepät. Don Ulmanelli's Tropical Three-Way Fruited Sour. It's chili, mango, passion fruit, milk sugar, and mixed fermentation. 6% strong. And here it is. Don Ulmanelli's Tropical Three-Way. A delicious blend of tropical fruits and the subtle kick of heart, bursting with the sweet and juicy flavors of mango and passion fruit. This sour ale offers a refreshing escape from the ordinary. The fruity chili heat comes from directly Poppamies, which is a local brand making hot potato chips, hot sauces, hot candies. Great, good stuff. So directly from Poppamies, crushed habanero, adding a delightful complexity to the tropical notes, created in collaboration with Don Ulmanelli and Poppamies. And here's the QR code for people who want to just, sign in. Before tasting the beer, I have tasted it before, but I'm going to explain this. So Brian Mons donated 20 Canadian dollars here, which will be, then paid to us by Google or YouTube. And how this money is being used. Once again, I'm going to repeat it here for the sake of repetition. The money we get from YouTube, be it advertisement money or your donations, they are then spent on Rauta trips on hotels and flights. And recently it meant that me and my cameraman Arto, we traveled to Germany earlier in April, and there was this Acrobatic Arts 4 festival where a bunch of bands playing are the kinds that never come to Finland, never seen in Norway. So instead of Norway and Finland having these bands, never, we went to Germany where these bands perform. And as such, the result is we made 4 interviews with bands like Morast / Endstille, so 2 bands in one interview, the Ruins of Beverust, and Sulfur Aeon. So 3 German bands which are kind of untouchable on Finnish soil or Norwegian soil. And then we got this Hordem Rife. So in case you're wondering how these interviews are possible to make when they don't even come to Finland, that's where Rauta travels. So those donations make a big impact in sense of when interviews are gonna get done. So thank you big time to people like Brian Mons and of course SK, who has donated the most during the years of Rauta. So it's with these people, and of course you people who watch the videos, who make these interviews possible. So you can now thank yourselves, pat yourself on the back, because without you, dear followers or fans, I don't know how you prefer to call yourselves, it's thank to you how these interviews are done. If you didn't watch the videos, or if some people didn't donate money, you would have no more interviews, except from Finnish soil where traveling is basically free of charge because we live here. So this time we're having this beer tropical 3-way fruity sour. As you can see, this looks like orange juice basically, or some kind of a Fanta lemonade, whatever, because of course there's a little bit of bubbles. Oh man, I didn't even remember. This is so good. The habanero kicks in just a little bit. So while it's not really like filled with chili, there's this little burning sensation with the fruitiness. So it's sweet and hot at the same time. Beautiful. So back to your questions. First, I will of course answer the questions with the tags, and then I will read back the scrolling. Gothic Darkness means where are you? Where are you from, Norway or Finland? Finland. Can't say I have heard the band Kurjus. Russ Vladimir said both great squats and deadlifts. I love motivation for benching especially. Russ, what I meant is more like how big are your squats and deadlifts? I was thinking like maybe if you changed music, maybe you would get better results. Maciek is asking, Jerry, I listened to Zegner Roland's EP today and the Goosebumps, I guess. The whole EP sounds so sick, so evil and unhuman. And it makes sense to realize that the vocal is necrophile. Okay. What else? Ross is saying, kill alcohol. Really, kill alcohol is moderation, sure, but Rauta is over here drinking daily. No, I'm not here drinking daily. Brian Monty is asking, did I work out this stream? No, I didn't work out for the stream. I was explaining the basics of workout of streaming because I just came here basically to the stream straight from the gym. So yeah, you missed about 1 hour and a half. Antti is asking if I have ever been to Howls of Winter in Estonia. Ruins of Beverest was there this year also. No, I haven't been there. I haven't been at the venue, or one of the venues in Estonia related to Howls of Winter, but I've never been there because it's been overlapping with some other events. All right, back to our earlier questions. Ebenezer was mentioning that Lifting thing, Wolf Brigade is superb to throw some iron into. I mean, it makes sense. And yeah, technical music and lifting is kind of a complicated. But then again, I can agree with what Henry Rollins once upon a said about lifting, that he listens to romantic music. I mean, it sounds weird, but then again, this kind of more slow pacing thing can actually work for it, especially with the stronger emotions. So, for example, I've been listening to music like Pink Floyd at the gym. So, I mean, why not? Yeah, Lucas, these CD shelves behind me, they're old IKEA CD towers, not being for sale for years and years. When we moved to this house about 6 years ago, I threw some of these towers away. I had like, I mean, nowadays I have only five of them, and I think I had something like eight. So I gave it to the second hand storage or whatever recycling center, so they are not maybe available anymore. Inferno Cross is saying, if I pay you 1,000 Swedish crowns, would you play Bloodborne? Yeah, I surely could. I mean, I have it on PlayStation 4, and you can watch the enemy suffer and all that stuff. I remember I gave up with Bloodborne because I just don't have the patience for the difficulty. I mean, otherwise the gaming world is great. And yeah, I actually agree, Arrebarre. Mordition is completely uninteresting. Jay Killers is asking, do I like Baratrum? I actually went through the whole Baratrum thing on my videos. So if you want to find my more in-depth take on Baratrum, you should probably watch that video. But I would say their latest album is probably their strongest so far. Um, HB Dixon is saying, you have skinwalkers now. What the fuck is skinwalkers? Ross, like I said, having a little bit of alcohol doesn't really cancel out lifting weights. Uh, you know, you would have to drink a lot in order to not make any gains lifting weights. So nah. And to be honest, if it's not about competing, doesn't matter if you have a little bit of beer here and there. So it's not, let's not over exaggerate. I mean, it's totally possible to lift weights and have a little bit of booze. Um, so unless you're doing it all the time, it doesn't matter. So when Russ is saying Rauta is over here drinking daily, no, I don't drink daily. I don't even drink every week. And when it's more a tasting what I do. Like today, I'm having like 3 beers. Doesn't even count like drinking. I mean, obviously, I'm not driving a car, but it's not like I'm getting wasted. Yeah, feel the kill. I think that what you mentioned there is the main problem, that when you drink heavy beers, you don't eat as much. I think that's more of a problem. You don't eat as much as necessary when you're having a few beers. Gothic of Darkness is asking, what bands do I like from the Netherlands? And I'm thinking there are a bunch of bands I've been, listening to from the Netherlands, but I don't like have any favorites from Netherlands. They're probably something I'm missing, but let's not be honest about it. I mean, there are no great bands that come to my mind from Netherlands. Urfaust was pretty decent. Sinister has some decent stuff as well. but I don't remember having any favorites from Netherlands. Severe Torture was decent too, but I mean, I wouldn't call Sinister or Severe Torture like top class death metal. And yeah, Russ, I can totally understand listening to classical music while while lifting. Alex N is asking, what is my thoughts on Oranzi Patsuzu? I remember they doing some decent stuff, but I guess it's a little bit too experimental for my taste. And yeah, agreed with Arre Barre. Pink Floyd is top tier band. Yeah, Feel the Guilt. That is very true that we have more, say, diversity in Europe in various countries when it comes to bands. And one thing that many bands don't want to go to USA is because it's expensive. First of all, the flights. And then you also need to have the green card thing in order to play there. So you cannot have for the smaller bands, it's just impossible because it's not like the bands can afford the paying for the green cards in order to do the shows. So if the promoter or whoever is organizing the gigs isn't, paying for the flights, paying for the green cards, and then also some kind of a, you know, uh, compensation for the actual money. I mean, why would the bands travel? It's like some 10 hours to United States to play 45 minutes of a set when they don't even make anything out of it. So I think USA has pretty much on governmental level, pretty much like put a stop to bands playing there. So obviously you get only the bigger bands, unless there is some hardcore fanatic getting some smaller underground bands and paying all the expenses. Oh, Dixon, now I get your Skinwalker reference. Okay, fine, fine. So obviously, European bands playing in Europe is just possible because we don't have that kind of a green card thing. You can't just play shows and you don't have to have some kind of a work permit in order to play a gig. Yeah, Asfix is actually pretty good of a Dutch band, but when it comes to Gorefest, I actually never listened to it. I know that some people always praise the early Gorefest, but it just passed under my radar back in the days, so I never went back to it. Asagram is probably the best Dutch bands. Thank you, Antti. Asagram's all their albums are good, so yeah, that one I forgot. Gothic Darkness, of course, I try to answer all the questions, especially when people tag me. I will see the highlighted here so that I prioritized the questions with the tag. Yeah, Feel the Kill. I mean, nobody wants to have smaller bands to play like 70 minutes. It just goes beyond the scope. So 45 minutes or whatever it is pretty basic, for smaller bands. Yeah, I think being in the European Union, it really helps the bands travel as much from country to country. It's almost the same thing than when within USA, you can just travel from state to state and you don't have to hassle with the passports and all. So in that sense, USA is just one big area, whereas Europe is another big area. But USA has caused pretty much these how you call them these problems by themselves. So look at the government, man. It's all there. If you make hard for bands that are not doing their job to play there, and you will consider them like people who are working there, that's the problem. And I know it was easier for bands before. They didn't need a green card in case they just wanted to play a gig or two, but they made harder, and now it's more expensive for the bands, and it's way too expensive for smaller bands. It's just not possible to do it anymore, especially when the The expenses are right there, and you cannot really charge that much for these tickets. I mean, if you have a bunch of small underground bands, you cannot say like, okay, the tickets are 50 euros or $50, and what you have like four small underground bands. Nobody's gonna buy those tickets. So unless you get cheaper bands, in which case a lot of European bands are out of question, or then you just raise the ticket price, in which case people are not coming. So that's USA to blame for it. It sucks, but that's how it is. And also, it goes for other ways. I mean, Anthrax was supposed to play here something like 3 years ago, and they had to cancel their whole European tour because the logistics prices were like skyrocketing. I think there was something like really crazy, like the prices went up like 50% or something like that. So the American bands, you know, renting all the trucks and shit, they couldn't come here in Europe and play those gigs for the typical ticket prices. So they canceled the whole fucking tour. So this is another way of, how cancel culture can hit the metal bands. The prices are too steep. They're too high. All right, catch you later, Lucas. Oh, you mean catch up. Sorry, I misread. Yeah. Well, there are always bands to catch up with, but that's the problem with Rauta. I'm getting more and more review albums, so I'm always kind of stuck with them, and not always possible to check out older bands and all. That's part of the thing here. It's ironic, however, given how few people's actually watch these reviews, but the bands and labels still want to send them all the time. So obviously I am reviewing them all the time, and that's a good excuse for me too to check out new bands, new albums, and all that stuff. Yeah, but Xastur is kind of a sad band too. So Gothic Darkness, I guess it depends what you mean with demonic screams. I try to do demonic screams when I'm doing vocals for Nightside, for instance, but I don't know if that they qualify. Yeah, and Asphyx is in general is rather good of a band, so it's it's nice. But yeah, I mean, in general, for some reason, Dutch metal scene hasn't been that much of a great thing, and I don't know really why. What's wrong with Dutch? The same thing as with Belgium. It's not that you know. It's just not happening the same way, as in say Sweden or some other countries. But then again, Norway was never that big of a thing with death metal either. So I don't know why certain genres don't really like happen in certain countries. It's just weird. All right, having this one beer to go, so let's make it count. So, do you have a certain other questions you wanna make? Oh, there's just those super chat things. Hey, should we try one of these? I don't know what how this is gonna happen, but let's see. How often I shave my head? It really depends. Maybe once a week. Sometimes I'm a little bit lazy if I'm traveling and shit. Sometimes, it depends. Because when I'm traveling, it's harder to do that. What do I think Werewolf show will be at Stalefest? Hard to tell. I guess anything from entertaining to boring is possible. What is prickly hairs? Can't say I have this problem with injuring myself at the gym or working out. I don't remember. I mean, sometimes there has been problems like I have hurt my back, like doing deadlifts a couple of times for no obvious reason, but very rarely things like that happen. I don't know, Dorian. I don't know. Yeah, but I mean, Satanic War Master has played there more often. than true werewolves. So can have Satanic Warmaster every fucking year at Steelfest. Feel the Kill, to be honest, I'm not buying really t-shirts these days. I have way too many of them. What I would like to do is buy more, long sleeve ones, but they are not that common these days. And yeah, I've heard that t-shirt prices are higher and higher, and there are many reasons. First of all, the manufacturing costs are crazy, especially if you have colored ones. Like we wanted to do colored night side ones, having the actual album cover, with the blue coloring and all. And we found out that just, ordering some, colored ones would have cost almost 25 euros per one shirt, meaning that we would have to charge something at least like 40 bucks because, venues also take their cut. So when a shirt say costs $15 to make, you cannot sell it for 20 because there is also this cut and you have to make a little bit profit in order to make it happen. So I think that's part of the reason why these shirts are, getting more expensive. So yeah, I think normal price for a black and white t-shirt, band shirt is something like 20-25 euros here. Veritanssi, kiitos vaan kommentista. Sieltä on tulossa nyt seuraavaksi 3 haastattelua vielä Saksasta. Sulfurion, Endstille / Morast, and the Ruins of Beverast, coming from Academic Arts 4. Yeah, Dorian, I understand why band like this one, just the logo. Yeah, there. I have heard even venues that have been as fucking crazy as taking something like 50% of the whole fucking thing. Usually here it is like 10 to 15%. But like there's this one gig we have coming up. It's not announced, so I cannot yet talk about it. And I think the cut was something like 25%, or was it 20? But it's still crazy. So assume that, for example, the manufacturing cost for a shirt would be something like 15 euros or 10. Let's call it 10. 10 is maybe not possible, but let's call it 10. And if you want to sell it for 20, but the cut is something like 25%, it's like you have to raise the pricing. This actually explains why at a certain event the prices, I was looking at them like why they are so expensive, and then I learned that in order to get the placement nice and all, the cut is quite steep. So no, the merch sales is not on bands alone, unfortunately. So yeah, Northern Heritage has their own shirt prices reasonable, but that's because they can make their own non-colored ones. They cannot make colored ones, so only black and white. Mm, Dark Funeral Design. I don't remember that one. JK, I'm usually contacting the bands as early as possible, not like 6 months earlier, but maybe a couple of months. That's usually how it goes. And if they don't want to do it or there is no reply from the bands, then I move on. So a few weeks, at least a month earlier. But I would say when Steelfest is in May, I usually start contacting them as soon as I'm done with the previous festival, because usually my mind is very much focused um, on the current festival. Like, so, for example, in April, I was pretty much thinking of, acrobatic arts. So my mind was not on Steelfest. So in this sense, it was something like maybe 6 weeks before the festival. What else? Oh, no more questions. Okay, I think it's a night then. You can pretty much get on with something else, and I can start gaming since it's like quarter to midnight. Sorry, midnight, but 1 o'clock, and I think I will be starting to playing Assassin's Creed Shadows, and we'll be streaming that as well. So now your final questions within like 5 minutes, and then I'm gone. So make it happen, please. Anything? No? Good night, Arbarre. Good night, Veritanssi. Good night, Russ. What is my favorite black metal band from the States? Judas Iscariot and Absu. Thank you, Phil the Kill. That's the idea, to do my part in this questions and answers thing. Rotten Punks, I'm gonna continue with Assassin's Creed Shadows. All right, guys. See you in a few minutes, I guess, in case you're joining for the gaming stream. Uh, nice 2 hours and 31 minutes on the stream here today. Next stream most likely will happen the early June, unless I'm already traveling. But I will notify that later. And if I can squeeze in another stream before I am traveling in the summer, then I will do it. But I don't know it yet. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for information, and of course join Rauta Discord for daily chats in case you're not already using Discord. And otherwise, check out my Instagram for updates on the reviewable albums as workout ones, and Facebook and all that stuff in case you're wondering and interested. And if not, well, YouTube is the place where all the stuff is happening. New interview coming out next week, so stay tuned for that. Good night. Thanks, Gothic Darkness.